My name is Grace Jo, and I was born in North Korea. I lost my father and my grandmother and my younger brothers in my country, and I was also almost starved to death. And then luckily, my mom took me and my remaining older sister and came to China, and we found freedom in America.
It came on July 27, 1953. While the communists signed at Panmunjom, General Clark, in ceremonies at the UN base camp in Munsan, signed 6 copies of the document which would end the bloodshed.
Korea became 2 countries, and then in the middle of Korea we had a 38th parallel, which we call it DMZ, which that become the border that separated in one country into 2 countries. Kim Il-sung was the first great leader of my country.
He was in control for 46 years and was called Great Leader. He was the longest-serving communist dictator in world history.
After 1994, the Kim Il-sung died and then Kim Jong-il took power. Our economy failed. People were expecting to get food from the government and they were lining up. But after they were waiting hours or days, the door was always kept shut and the government did not give any food. Well, people didn't know what to do in the beginning. Many people, they just started to starve. I was born in 1991. Until 3 years old, I was living in North Hamgyong province. It's the big city in North Korea near the border of China. But during the famine, my grandmother took me first to the countryside and we were living in the mountain because we can at least grow something on the land. During 1996 to 1997, we were starving constantly and we didn't have food, and they ran out of ideas how they can find food in North Korea. So my father decided to go to China to get help from his distant relatives. After he returned from China, he got reported by one of his friends, and he went to the detention center, and then he got interviewed and tortured, and he got beaten so bad. He died on a train while he was transferred to the city. After we heard about my father's death, and then my older sister got missing and my mom never found her. And after my youngest brother died, she came back from the trip, searching trip, and she actually brought Chinese rice and milk powder and some Chinese goods with her. But of course, on the same day when she arrived, the officers came back to us again. They took everything that looks like Chinese stuff, and then they took my mom away from us and she got tortured. And during that time, my grandmother, she got weaker and weaker. And by the June, my grandmother passed away by starvation. And her last wish was to eat 1 baked potato, but we were not able to provide that at the time. After my father passed away, my grandmother passed away, only adult in the family was my mom and with the little kids. And then those officers came to us and said, we are considered as criminal family. My father was disloyal to the government and he went to China without the permission. So that's why all these things are happening, and they are not happy that our family stays there. And then my mom just completely had heartbroken, and then she said, well, this is not our country. So my mom, my sister who was 4 years older than me, and me, 3 of us left. We were walking unpaved roads at night, and we were sleeping under the bush during the daytime. And finally we got to the border of China, and we kind of managed in about 40 minutes to cross that Tumen River to China's side. And I was in her backpack, and she was carrying me on her back, and she was holding my sister's hand, and my sister was holding the walking cane, and 3 of us tried to cross the river. And during 10 years, of course, I was forcefully sent back twice. And the first time I was 12 years old. And the second time when I repatriated, it was 15 years old. but I stayed in Chinese prison for 13 months in Tumen prison, and that prison only contains North Korean defectors. Back in 2006, I got repatriated to North Korea, and then at the time I was lucky because I met the Pastor Yoon in China back in 2004, and he helped our family with the other North Korean families in Qingdao area. 2004, the George W. Bush signed the North Korean Human Rights Act, and they gave us hope that we are able to come to America. My mom and I, we got caught in Qingdao, China, so we all sent it to the prison cell and went through some interviews, and of course, we will get beaten by those officers too. Pastor Yoon didn't give up our family. He asked around his community, church communities, and he raised a fund for about almost $20,000. And he bribed people in China and in North Korea, and he paid about $10,000 for our family. And he hired about 6 officials, and those officials in different departments and all that. And about 4 months later, of course, we managed again the escaping route. And at nighttime, we swam across the Tumen River again, and then we reached it to Tumen, to China side. Person who helped us and provided housing, he just came to our apartment and told us that we have to leave now because I just got a phone call from North Korea, and all those 6 officials got in trouble, and the government is looking for us. So we had to run as far as we can from the border area. So we just packed it quickly, and we got on the van, and the driver drove like a whole 12 or 13 hours straight. And then we got to Beijing, China, and then we got protected by the UN. And then we stayed in an apartment arranged by the UNHCR officers. And then I think that was about 15 months we were hiding in there until we get the refugee status from the US government. And then back in 2008, March, we finally got the date when we can depart from China. And we were so excited. But it took a little time for me to realize the freedom and how freedom feels like. Like until last year, I think I had a little bit of hesitation to calling out our leader's name in a public setting, like, oh, Kim Il-sung is bad and Kim Jong-il is bad. It's because each time when we sent back to North Korea, when we get released by those officers, we had to sign a consent, which is the consent says wherever we go or whatever we do, we never ever allowed to mention about the treatments we had in the prison, and we were not allowed to condemn our leaders or discriminate our leaders. If you do, wherever you go in the world, we always a way to find you guys and kill you guys. Communism is the worst government system in the world, and it's not benefiting any community or any individuals. Communist ideology never works. All those officers and leaders, when they have a power, they always want to get more power for their own good. As a North Korean human rights activist and the survivor of those tyranny, my goal is to help North Korean children in my lifetime. And I'm hoping that the day I'm retiring in America, and in front of me there will be an album, and I will flip over those pages and seeing those children who I supported, and then they will become the young leaders for the future of Korean reunification.